All right, some more about introductions to mapping online. We're going to go over a couple useful tools that you might want to use. We're going to use in this course some of them, and it's good to just know about them so that if you go further into mapping and as you get deeper into it, you kind of know some of these really useful tools that are out there. This is another subject where I have made a few videos on these on my YouTube channel. It's the Mapster YouTube channel, so if you look up Mapster YouTube, you're going to find my channel on there, and there's a playlist, something like awesome map tools or something, and there's 5 or 6 videos in there right now which go over some of what I will talk about today, but not everything. I try to go over really the web focused ones, so in this case we're going to talk on a little bit more, just stuff that I think could be useful to you as you're kind of entering this world of working with maps on your computer and particularly on the web. So really great one is this geojson.io. This is something I use like pretty much every day when I'm actually working with maps. With this tool, it's very simple. We can create points, we can draw lines, we can make polygons and stuff, and we get a set of stuff on the right-hand side here, which is called a GeoJSON. And you can actually see, because we did some JavaScript together, that this is a type of object, actually. There's the curly bracket, and then here's the property name and the property value. Then here's another property name, and this one's an array, and it's an array of objects, which are then nested, and here's the coordinates. And this is a very specific format, which we're going to look at as we actually move into doing mapping. We're going to look at this format called the GeoJSON specification. That's why this is called geojson.io. They didn't invent the GeoJSON, but it's a very common one that's used as a common format across mapping applications in general. So geojson.io lets you create a GeoJSON very easily, like just using, if you just need to make a bunch of different points and get them into this format easily, that's great for that. If you just want to know the coordinates of a place, it's pretty good for that. It's also really great for doing testing of GeoJSONs or data that you've been given by clients. Sometimes you might get some data and, when we talked about latitude and longitude, they aren't always in the right order. So sometimes you might get something, and in this case, the GeoJSON format is always longitude, latitude. But if you put something in here and it's actually latitude, longitude, your points are going to show up in a totally different part of the world, and you'll know that it's the data that's the problem and not you going crazy in your in your writing of JavaScript or whatever. So geojson.io, we are going to use it throughout. It's one to bookmark, really useful for drawing points, checking points, and just testing stuff out. Really good for that. Another really useful one I use fairly often is called Map Shaper. Now this is a little different. This is for using a specific, more or less, it's for using different types of files than just GeoJSONs. But if I save here this GeoJSON, it's saved this shape. I can drag that into Map Shaper and import it, and you'll see it actually has that shape here. Now it's totally empty, there's no background here. And that's one of the strengths actually of Map Shaper, is that it doesn't necessarily put everything on a map right away. So you can upload really large files with many thousands of points, and they'll upload and show fairly nicely. They do have this base map tool, so if we want to turn on this base map tool, looks like there's a problem with that one. There we go, that one worked. And so we can see our stuff actually on a map. But, like I mentioned in the other episode, sometimes maps have different projections, so they're not always using latitude and longitude. And Map Shaper can be great for dealing with those. You can drag them in, look at them roughly. Do they look like they're covering of the right area? There's also really useful stuff in here, like when you simplify, you can apply simplification to something and make the shape more basic. So in this case, my shape is only like 5 points, so it doesn't really make sense. But let's say I had a shape that was outlining like the whole outline of Canada or the US. It might be like really detailed here, but no one's ever going to see it there. So I can just simplify it down using Map Shaper, export it again, and then it's a much smaller file, which is a good thing. You can also change formats here. You can export it as a shapefile, as a GeoJSON, as different formats. We're going to talk a bit about formats in the next video, but just knowing that Map Shaper allows you to move things around. You can change formats, you can simplify, you can view large files here, it's a really good, useful one. I don't use it as much as geojson.io, but ever since I first found it, it's been quite helpful for visualizing things quickly. A couple of desktop tools. ArcGIS is a really famous, really large. This is all by Esri, which is a huge geospatial company that's been around for, like generations at this point. It's very deeply integrated into academics and everything. There's ArcGIS Desktop, there's ArcGIS Online. Most academic institutions have access or have an Esri membership. So if you're in an academic institution, you probably can use Arc. It's very widely used across industry professionals. This isn't really something we're going to go over in the course at all. I've never really used Arc because I work with online maps kind of exclusively. And one thing about Esri and ArcGIS is it really kind of contains you inside their ecosystem. So if you become an expert in Arc and in Esri type systems, it doesn't necessarily translate super well to working in all the other systems. You will know all the concepts of spatial work, but their software is really designed to kind of be its own ecosystem. That being said, it's very useful. There's a lot of tools here to do spatial analysis, to build applications or build maps that you can put into your papers, or they do have quite a lot of cool online things like story maps and things like that. You just can't customize them quite as deeply as if you're building it from the ground up like we will be. But it's a great tool, something to check out if you just want to get into mapping more generally. ArcGIS and Esri products in general are great way to go. QGIS is kind of the free alternative to ArcGIS. So the same way that we saw MapLibra being the free version of Mapbox, QGIS is free version of ArcGIS. Now it's not the same, like they didn't branch off of each other or something, but it's a giant community effort that's kind of trying to replicate a lot of the functionality that ArcGIS would have, but in a free system that you can download and use. It's fairly complicated to learn. Again, we're not going to touch on it at all in this course beyond this video, but this is a desktop application, not something that builds things for the web, and just allows you to handle really large files, do really complicated things when it comes to spatial analysis. And once you're getting farther into this and you really need to start changing file formats or simplifying files beyond what MapShaper can do, combining files, doing crazy stuff with rasters and vectors, QGIS is a good place to start if you don't want to have to buy or if you don't have access to ArcGIS. So there are a ton of other tools out there. Like I said, check out the YouTube channel if you're just looking to learn more about other tools, but just to get you kind of in the world of spatial analysis. Next, we'll go over data in maps. Talk to you then.